Hello, this is a continuation from my previous tutorial, which is Learning Cisco Resources Part 2. Just that now we're going to start getting into some more of the labs and start doing stuff. Before I start, I just want to show you the Cisco Packet Tracer. I do use 2016, but for this tutorial I'm going to use the 2015 because it has a lot less bugs, and 2016 has an array of problems. Yes, it has more features, but at the end of the day, for the CCNA, the 2015 packet tracer will be more than enough for what you need. So let's open that up. Okay. Now, when you start to use a Cisco packet tracer, if you've never used it before, it can be a little daunting to people because there's a lot going on, and it's quite a complex little program, and it's very, very clever. As you know, Cisco has made this program for students to learn how to network, and no one can afford to buy all the different types of routers and switches and PCs, so they designed a simulation program so that you can actually design networks within an interface and get almost exactly, not 100% of the result, but God, a high 90s result to how it would be in the real world if you did it on that type of Cisco switch. So for instance, if you used a 2960 switch in the real world and a 2960 switch on the Cisco packet tracer, they're almost identical in functionality, but I can tell you now there are a few more features on the real switch than there are on the packet tracer. But for your Cisco CCNA exam, they've put what you need to know, the sufficient information, in the program itself. So if you nail the program, you'll be more than prepared. In real life though, there is a little bit more information on the real switches. I just need to let you know about that because I configure switches in the real world, and I can tell you now the Cisco Packet Tracer's iOS is a kind of a little bit more of a cut down version, but still has a good 90% of the functionality that you find in the real switches. That goes for the routers and the PCs. Like for instance, when you put a PC out there on the packet tracer, it has the ability to put an IP address on it, set up email, TFTP, I can't think now, but let's just put it out there. So when you go onto this is a PC, you go to desktop, you can set an IP address, you can use the command prompt, and you know all the command prompt that you use on the PC is kind of like geared towards a Windows PC, but any PC with this, has a command prompt, you can ping and do whatever. That's basically what you use a PC for. Basically, pinging and telnet and SSH is when you mainly use a PC in the packet tracer. But it does have quite a bit of functionality considering, it's a PC, and and even some of the Windows commands is built into that program. Also you have the wireless part of it, which is when you've got laptops. The email, you can set up an email, which is done through you bring out an email server. In this server, this is a quick rundown. In the server, you have services. You have all these services, and you can configure a web server, a DHCP, a TFTP, an email server. You set up a domain name, which is in conjunction with the lab. This is how you learn networking, and this is what Cisco has done. It's great. It's a fantastic tool. And you have this other cool thing over here. See that says real time, and then you have simulation. Simulations like, you do your lab, you prepare your lab, and then you can actually run a simulation, which is an actual packet, a packet you can see, and you can see where the packet goes, whether it's, you know, whether it has, whether it gets unreachable or it's reachable. It sends an ARP request, and after the ARP, if it's good, you can actually see the little packet go. It's really, really cool. I'll demonstrate that on lab in the next few tutorials. Another cool thing about the Cisco Packet Tracer is that it has this multi-user use. I'll show you over here. Multi-user. You can actually have a packet tracer here with a little cloud, and that cloud can actually connect to another PC anywhere else in the classroom. So if you're doing like a session with multiple people, you can actually connect to other people's packet tracer through that multi-user feature, which is really cool. I haven't personally done it, but I have done it on a few PCs within myself, but not other people, and I've tested it, and it's so cool. I mean, that's a really, really awesome way to learn networking, how to connect to other people. Basically, the cloud is like a routing protocol. You know, it's like routing from one WAN link to another, or from one area to another. That's really how it works. Once you learn that, you'll know how to do that part of it, and it's cool. It's a cool feature. What's another thing that we can do? Okay, in the packet tracer, the first thing you really want to muck around with is this preferences tab. It has, you know, you can play sound. Sound is basically, I'm just going to pop this to the side. Actually, I have to close it. See, it makes these kind of funny sounds, and you can, you know, bring stuff out, and then you can get rid of stuff. See, it sounds like a loaded gun. Some people like that. I personally find it kind of annoying, but it does have some cool sounds that, you know, associated with the actions that you take. I suppose it's up to personal preference. Another one is this administrative, not administrative, the font. This is probably where you'll probably play with it most. You can change this is the iOS text and switch. It applies to both routers and switches. That's the background color, that's the foreground color. And the same with the PCs that I just showed you. Foreground color, background color. You can change it to whatever color you want. I like green for my switches and routers, and I like orange for my PCs, or white. It doesn't matter, and you can change the sizes of the font, and, you know, just have a play with that, and you can kind of do, you know, various things to suit what you like, the kind of interface you'd like to work in. I don't really play with any of this stuff much. In fact, I don't know much about that, I don't think. Yeah, don't worry about that, don't worry about that. But this is mainly what you'll play with. The interface, in case you want. What you do want to do is show labels, device name, labels, and port labels, so that you can see what they're connected to. Otherwise, it's really hard when you're doing your lab, you want to see what ports, especially with routers, what ports connected to what and which direction they're going. So having the show port labels is important. Like, I'll show you, for instance. Let's just go over here. We'll grab a router, any router. Okay, we'll grab a switch, any switch, and a PC. Long router. So when it comes to, if I connect this, see how it has that, and then connect the fast signal at 0. See that? That's going to the first switch, the first port on the switch. If I go to here, connect there, I'll go to the 24th port to the FA00 port, FA00 port to the 24th port. If you have like I said before, don't show port labels. It's kind of hard when you have multiple routers and multiple devices, and if you need to find which one's connected to what port. I mean, you have to go into it and do a show IP brief or whatever, but just having that for the lab purposes, showing port labels, it's really helpful. So I would definitely turn that on if you're doing labs, and it just makes mucking around, especially designing labs, a lot easier. So that's what that's about. For anything else, how you save it, you just hit the save button and it will pop up a save as, save file dialog. I've put it in the Cisco packet saves default directory, but you don't have to. You can put it wherever you want. You can put it in desktop, downloads. I've just left it default. And you name it whatever you want. Just test dot, which is test lab, and save it. And now that's saved. So whatever you do now will keep saving. And if you somehow want to open a new one, that's going to pop up no matter what. You can start a new lab, but you go, oh no, I want the old one. I want one of the labs I've been using. And if I go to that test lab, which should be here somewhere. Let's see it. That one. And there it is. It comes back up. So that's what that is. You can print the lab if you want to. This is a zoom in. You can get right up, and that's the zoom out. And that's the reset zoom. So if you go like that, that just resets it back to default. And you can change the color of certain things, like you can have the fill color. Select the fill color as green, go OK, and then if I go a circle, that will be green. That's good for if you're doing inter-area OSPF, and you can do different color circles for different areas and then put the interfaces at different colors. It's just good for visualization purposes. But it's not, it's not what you need to do. It's just what helps me personally do it better. Yeah, and I think that's all I need to really cover with the Cisco Packet Tracer. Just know that with the Cisco Packet Tracer, you'll use, 1841, 1941, 2811, 2911, and maybe 2901. They're the routers that you normally ever use, especially with the newer type. Which is a newer type of Cisco Packet Tracer. You'll only ever use the PC, the laptop for wireless, and the server, which has those services I showed you earlier, TFTP, DNS, HTTP, email, NTP, and so on. And for the switches, you'll use the 2960 and 2950 for your labs. You don't need to use anything else. That's pretty much has the majority of the functionality that you require. These are the cables that you'll use. You'll use those for serial links. That one and that one. That's for coax, which you won't use in the CCNA. That's octal, you won't use for the CCNA. You won't use that for the CCNA. You won't use that. You'll use that. You'll use that, and you'll use that. And that's an automatic cable selection. So if you don't know what cables to use for what device, like, you use that, but I advise never to use that. Always think about what cables you need. So if it's going from, just a very quick lesson on cables, it's going from, say, from router to router, that's on the same layer, layer 3. Anything on the same layer, we'll use a crossover, because they're on the same layer. Anything that's going from one layer to a different layer uses a straight through. Very important to understand. That's a layer 2 device. That's a layer 3 device. It's going to use a straight through. A device that has the same, that's on the same layer, which is that, and the NIC card, those two, that's on the same layer. So you would use a crossover from a router to a PC or to a server. But you would use a straight through to a router to a switch. And then you would use a straight through from a switch to a PC. But you would use a crossover from a switch to a switch because they're on the same layer. Anything that's on different layers will use a straight cable. Anything that's on the same layer will use a crossover. That's just the general rule. Okay, well, I think that's all for this lab. This is just a quick intro, well, I don't know about quick, but it's an intro to the lab of Packet Tracer and how to use the features, and well, not all the features, but some of the stuff that you only ever use. And I hope this has been educational, and I hope you've learnt and just play around with this stuff, and this is how you get better at it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.